Commander Veltar floated in his command chair aboard the research vessel Zephyr's Song as it drifted quietly at the edge of a small yellow star system. His 3 eyes studied the data screens showing the third planet from the star. The world looked ordinary enough with its blue oceans and white clouds swirling around brown and green continents. His crew had been watching this planet for several weeks now, and the reports all said the same thing. The creatures living there were harmless. Dr. Zixar tapped her datapad with one of her 4 arms while reviewing the scan results. The bipedal mammals down on the planet's surface had built some basic machines and could fly short distances in metal boxes that burned chemicals for power. They had not figured out how to travel faster than light, which meant they were stuck in their own tiny corner of space. Most of the galaxy would never even know they existed. The Kaleri scientist made notes about the human civilization as she called it. These creatures seemed to fight each other quite often, which was normal for species that had not yet learned to work together. Most young civilizations went through phases of violence before they grew wise enough to join the peaceful galactic community. The humans appeared to be somewhere in the middle of this natural development process. Down on the planet Earth, Captain Jake Morrison was running training exercises with his squad near the red planet called Mars. His ship was one of the newest vessels in the United Earth Defense Force, which had been created just 5 years earlier when all the nations finally agreed to work together in space. Jake had been expecting this day for a long time because everyone knew that meeting aliens was just a matter of when, not if. The alarm on his control panel started beeping softly, and Jake looked at his sensor display. There was definitely something out there near the edge of their solar system, and it was not moving like any asteroid or comet he had ever seen. The object seemed to be staying in one place, which meant it had to be under some kind of control. Jake felt his heart beat faster as he realized this might be the moment humanity had been preparing for. Jake followed the procedures that Dr. Lisa Harper and her team had written for first contact situations. He sent a message back to Earth Command, and then slowly moved his ship toward the unknown object while broadcasting peaceful mathematical signals. The protocol said to start with simple numbers and basic shapes to show that humans were intelligent but not threatening. Commander Veltar noticed the small human vessel approaching and felt mildly interested. Most species either hid when they detected alien ships or immediately tried to attack with their primitive weapons. These humans seemed to be trying to communicate, which showed they had at least some wisdom. The mathematical patterns they were sending were correct, which proved they understood basic concepts. Dr. Zixara suggested they respond with their own mathematical signals to see if the humans could hold a conversation. Within a few hours, both species had established a simple way to share basic ideas using numbers and pictures. The human pilot seemed eager to learn and kept sending new patterns to test if the aliens understood them. Captain Morrison was amazed at how quickly the communication was working. The alien ship was clearly much more advanced than anything humans had built, but the creatures inside seemed friendly enough. They answered every mathematical question he sent and even seemed to be teaching him new concepts about space and energy. Jake began to think that maybe the old movies about hostile alien invasions had been wrong. Back on Earth, Dr. Lisa Harper was working around the clock with her linguistics team to decode the alien messages. She had spent most of her career studying how different languages worked and had always dreamed of the day she might get to figure out how aliens communicated. The patterns were complex but followed logical rules, which meant the alien minds worked in ways that humans could understand. Dr. Sam Rodriguez joined the communication team to help with the technical parts of the messages. The aliens seemed to know a lot about physics and engineering that was far beyond current human knowledge. Sam could tell that these creatures had been traveling between stars for a very long time, and had learned things that humans were only beginning to discover after 3 days of back-and-forth messages. Commander Veltar felt satisfied that these humans were typical of most species at their level of development. They were curious and intelligent, but lacked the technology to be dangerous to anyone except themselves. He prepared to update their file with a standard classification and move on to survey the next system on his list. However, Captain Morrison sent one more message that changed everything. He asked if the aliens would like to visit Earth and meet with human leaders to establish formal diplomatic relations. The human pilot explained that his people would be honored to welcome the aliens as guests and show them around their homeworld. Commander Veltar discussed this request with his crew and decided it would be good to follow proper first contact procedures. The Galactic Council required that all new species be given a chance to join the peaceful community of worlds if they showed the right qualities. A short visit to evaluate human society would complete their survey mission and allow them to make proper recommendations. Dr. Zixara sent a message back to Captain Morrison accepting the invitation and suggesting they meet at a location on Earth where both species could be comfortable. The humans quickly responded with coordinates for a new facility they had built specifically for alien contact situations. Commander Veltar was impressed that these creatures had planned ahead for such meetings. Neither the humans nor the Kaleri realized that this simple diplomatic exchange was about to reveal truths about human nature that would terrify the entire galaxy. The peaceful aliens had no way of knowing that they were about to discover a species that had spent its entire evolutionary history perfecting the art of warfare and survival against impossible odds. Captain Morrison guided the alien ship toward Earth while making plans for the most important meeting in human history. The whole world was watching and waiting to see what would happen when humanity finally took its first steps toward joining the galactic community. Everyone was excited and hopeful about the wonderful future that seemed to be opening up before them. 3 weeks after first contact, Ambassador Trindle stepped out of his transport ship onto the landing pad at the International Contact Facility in Nevada. The structure had been built in record time with materials and workers from every nation. On Earth, humanity wanted to make the best possible impression on their first alien visitors and had spared no expense in creating a welcoming environment. President Nancy Williams stood waiting with a group of world leaders including UN Secretary General Carlos Martinez and representatives from major nations around the globe. The ceremony was being broadcast live to every television and internet connection on the planet as billions of humans watched their species take its first formal step into the galactic community. Ambassador Trindle was impressed by the grand welcome and the obvious effort the humans had put into preparing for this meeting. The facility was clean and well organized with comfortable areas designed for both human and Kaleri needs. The humans had even studied basic Kaleri biology to make sure their guests would be physically comfortable during the visit. The problems began during the formal dinner that evening. Ambassador Trindle was trying to be polite and diplomatic as he had been trained for such occasions. He complimented the humans on what he called their interesting warrior traditions and mentioned that their military structures seemed unusually complex for such a young civilization. He meant this as a friendly observation about human social development. General Patrick Hayes, who was serving as the military liaison for the facility, politely corrected the ambassador's assumptions. He explained that Earth actually had many different military forces belonging to separate nations that had only recently begun working together in space. The general seemed proud of this diversity and described it as one of humanity's greatest strengths. Dr. Sam Rodriguez joined the conversation to help explain human history and development to their alien guests. He thought it would be helpful to provide some statistical information about major events in human civilization to give the Kaleri a better understanding of how their society had evolved over time. Dr. Rodriguez began by describing the major wars that had shaped human history. The Kaleri delegation listened with growing concern as Dr. Rodriguez casually mentioned that World War II had resulted in the deaths of over 70 million humans. He explained that this had been followed by something called the Cold War, where two groups of nations had threatened each other with weapons powerful enough to destroy all life on Earth. Dr. Rodriguez spoke about these events as if they were normal parts of any civilization's development. Ambassador Trindle asked for clarification about humanity's current military capabilities. He was trying to understand how a species that seemed so friendly and peaceful could have such a violent history. Defense Secretary Karen Thompson was happy to provide detailed information about Earth's nuclear arsenal and military structure, Secretary. Thompson explained that Earth currently maintained approximately 13,000 nuclear weapons spread among several different nations. She mentioned that this was actually a significant reduction from the peak numbers during the Cold War, when humanity had possessed enough nuclear firepower to destroy their own planet multiple times over. She seemed to think this reduction was a positive development that showed human wisdom and restraint. The Calari delegation exchanged worried glances as they tried to process this information. Most civilizations took thousands of years to develop weapons capable of destroying their homeworld, and usually did so only after achieving interstellar travel and galactic awareness. Humans had created planet-killing weapons while still confined to a single solar system, and seemed to consider this normal technological progress. Captain Jake Morrison gave a presentation about humanity's plans for space exploration that was intended to show the aliens how eager humans were to join the galactic community. He enthusiastically described projects for mining asteroids, establishing colonies on Mars, and sending exploration missions to other star systems. Morrison spoke about these plans as if they were simple engineering problems that just needed time and resources to solve. Morrison casually mentioned that several space missions would use nuclear-powered engines to reach distant planets more quickly. He also described plans to establish military bases throughout the solar system to protect human colonies and trade routes from potential threats. The captain seemed to think these were reasonable precautions that any responsible species would take when expanding into space. Dr. Lisa Harper tried to steer the conversation toward more peaceful topics by discussing human art, literature, and philosophy. However, even these subjects seemed to contain disturbing elements when viewed from the Calari perspective. Many of humanity's greatest stories were about wars and conflicts with heroes who overcame impossible odds through violence and determination. Ambassador Trindle learned that humans had created elaborate fictional scenarios about fighting alien invasions, zombie outbreaks, nuclear wars, and various other catastrophic events. What worried him most was that these stories were considered entertainment and were enjoyed by millions of humans who seemed to find inspiration in tales of survival against overwhelming enemies. The evening concluded with a cultural exchange, where both species shared examples of their music and art. The Calari presented peaceful harmonies and images of cooperation, while the humans offered military marches and paintings of historical battles. Even human sports seemed to involve ritualized combat, with players wearing armor and using violent tactics to defeat their opponents. By the end of the dinner, Ambassador Trindle was sending urgent coded messages back to his superiors, warning them that the initial assessment of humanity had been seriously wrong. These creatures were not the peaceful primitives they appeared to be, but rather a species that had spent their entire development period preparing for warfare on a scale that most civilizations could not even imagine. The ambassador requested an immediate comprehensive evaluation of human society by the galaxy's most experienced xenosociologists. He recommended that all contact with humanity be suspended until experts could determine whether these creatures posed a threat to galactic civilization. The friendly dinner had revealed that Earth's inhabitants were far more dangerous than anyone had realized. Ambassador Trindle went to sleep that night wondering what other disturbing secrets about human nature would be discovered once the Galactic Council began a thorough investigation of this seemingly harmless species. He had a feeling that humanity was about to surprise the galaxy in ways that no one could predict. Dr. Kethmer of the Zephyrian Institute received the emergency assignment with a mixture of curiosity and concern. His reputation as the galaxy's most skilled xenosociologist had been built over centuries of successful species evaluations, and he had personally overseen the integration of 47 different civilizations into the Galactic Council. However, the urgent nature of this particular request suggested that something unusual was happening with the humans. The preliminary reports from Ambassador Trindle painted a confusing picture of a species that appeared friendly and intelligent, but possessed disturbing militaristic tendencies. Dr. Kethmer decided to begin his investigation by studying human entertainment. Media, since most civilizations revealed their true nature through the stories they told themselves for pleasure and cultural instruction. Working with human anthropologist Dr. Amy Foster and historian Dr. Ben Clark, the alien research team began compiling extensive databases of human films, literature, and games. Dr. Foster was eager to help and seemed proud to share examples of humanity's greatest cultural achievements. She had no idea that she was about to reveal aspects of human nature that would horrify the peaceful aliens. Dr. Kethmer's first shock came when he realized that humans seemed to glorify conflict in ways that defied all known patterns of civilized development. Their most popular stories were about impossible odds overcome through violence, determination, and what humans called grit. Dr. Clark enthusiastically explained the concept of the underdog victory, where small forces defeated larger ones through superior tactics, technology, or simple refusal to surrender. The alien researcher watched hundreds of human movies about wars, invasions, disasters, and survival scenarios. What disturbed him most was not the violence itself, but the way humans seemed to find these stories inspiring and uplifting. Other species created entertainment about cooperation, harmony, and peaceful problem-solving, while humans appeared to celebrate the idea of fighting against overwhelming odds. Dr. Foster introduced the research team to human sports, thinking it would demonstrate humanity's more peaceful, competitive nature. Instead, Dr. Kethmer found himself observing what appeared to be ritualized combat performed for mass entertainment. Boxing, mixed martial arts, and American football seemed designed to celebrate physical violence, while even non-contact sports used military terminology like blitz bomb and elimination. The investigation took a more serious turn when Dr. Kethmer requested access to human military history. Colonel Steve Murphy was assigned as military historical consultant and seemed happy to provide detailed briefings on the evolution of human warfare. The colonel spoke about these topics with academic enthusiasm, as if discussing the development of art or music rather than methods of mass destruction. Dr. Kethmer learned about siege warfare, cavalry charges, naval battles, and aerial combat. Each technological advancement in human civilization appeared to be matched by corresponding innovations. In warfare, humans had developed better ways to kill each other at the same rate they had improved farming, transportation, and communication. This pattern was unprecedented among known civilizations. Colonel Murphy explained concepts like combined arms tactics, defensive positioning, and strategic resource denial with the same passion that other species might discuss philosophy or poetry. The human military officer seemed genuinely excited to share knowledge about subjects that most civilizations considered too horrible to study in detail. He offered to provide classified information about modern warfare techniques if it would help with the cultural exchange. What truly disturbed Dr. Kethmer was learning about human military doctrine from Major Lisa Wright, who specialized in strategic planning. She explained concepts like total war, scorched earth tactics, and mutually assured destruction with calm professional detachment. The humans spoke of planet-killing strategies as if they were normal topics for civilized discussion rather than nightmarish scenarios that should never be contemplated. Major Wright described how human military planners prepared for every conceivable threat scenario, including alien invasion, nuclear war, environmental collapse, and social breakdown. She seemed proud of humanity's ability to create detailed contingency plans for situations that most species could not even imagine. The Major offered to share classified documents about theoretical defense strategies if the aliens were interested. Dr. Kethmer realized that humanity had spent their entire development period preparing for wars of extinction, while other species focused on cooperation, trade, and cultural development. Humans had devoted enormous resources to studying how to survive and win conflicts against any possible enemy. Their entire civilization seemed built around the assumption that violence was inevitable and must be prepared for. The research team discovered that human children were taught military history in schools as part of their basic education. Students learned about famous battles, tactical innovations, and strategic principles that had decided the fate of nations. What other species considered specialized knowledge for military professionals, Humans treated as general cultural literacy that every citizen should possess. Dr. Ben Clark provided historical context by explaining how human societies had been shaped by thousands of years of warfare between competing groups. He described how military necessity had driven innovations in technology, organization, and logistics that had ultimately benefited all aspects of human civilization. The historian seemed to view this violent history as a source of pride rather than shame. Even human language reflected their militaristic nature, with common expressions drawn from warfare and combat. Humans talked about attacking problems, mounting campaigns, and fighting battles in contexts that had nothing to do with actual violence. Their entire way of thinking seemed influenced by military concepts that had become so deeply embedded in their culture that they no longer recognized their origins. Dr. Kethmer's investigation revealed that humanity possessed institutional knowledge of warfare spanning millennia, with detailed records of tactics, strategies, and lessons learned from countless conflicts. Most civilizations lost such information as they evolved beyond their violent phases, but humans had carefully preserved and studied their military heritage as if it were sacred wisdom. The final shock came when Dr. Kethmer learned that ordinary human civilians possessed extensive knowledge of military subjects that most species considered dangerous. Specialist information. Farmers knew about biological warfare, teachers understood siege tactics, and housewives could discuss nuclear strategy with frightening competence. Humanity appeared to be a civilization of natural-born warriors disguised as peaceful citizens. As Dr. Kethmer prepared his report for the Galactic Council, he realized that Ambassador Trindle's concerns had been understated rather than exaggerated. Humanity represented a type of civilization that the galaxy had never encountered before, and he was not sure whether the peaceful council was equipped to handle the implications of their discovery. Dr. Kethmer stood before the assembled representatives of 847 species in the Great Council Chamber on Galactic Prime. The circular hall buzzed with curious whispers as delegates from across the galaxy gathered to hear his report on the mysterious humans who had caused such concern among the normally calm Kalari observers. Most representatives expected a routine briefing about another primitive species. Ready for standard integration procedures, the presentation began with conventional metrics that seemed to support the original assessment of humanity as harmless. Dr. Kethmer displayed charts showing that humans scored within normal ranges for intelligence, technological adaptability, and social cooperation indices. Their planet showed typical signs of a developing civilization, with growing cities, expanding infrastructure, and increasing energy consumption patterns. However, Dr. Kethmer quickly moved beyond these surface measurements to reveal the disturbing patterns his investigation had discovered. He explained that humans had developed weapons capable of planetary destruction within a single century of industrialization, which represented an unprecedented rate of militarization in galactic records. Most species required thousands of years to progress from basic metallurgy to nuclear physics, giving them time to develop corresponding social maturity. Council Representative Quinara of the Peaceful Harmonious Collective listened in growing shock as Dr. Kethmer described human military philosophy, where most civilizations viewed warfare as a regrettable last resort that should be avoided at all costs. Humans had elevated armed conflict to an art form. They studied historical battles for entertainment, celebrated military leaders as cultural heroes, and maintained detailed institutional knowledge of combat tactics, spanning their entire recorded history. The alien researcher presented examples of human strategic thinking that had been gathered during his investigation. Military planner Colonel Rick Johnson had cheerfully provided detailed briefings on theoretical defense plans against alien invasion, zombie outbreaks, asteroid impacts, and nuclear war scenarios. The humans had devoted considerable resources to preparing for conflicts that most species could not even imagine, let alone plan for in advance. What truly alarmed the council delegates was learning about human contingency planning capabilities. Dr. Kethmer showed recordings of ordinary human civilians discussing hypothetical crisis scenarios with disturbing competence and enthusiasm. When asked how they might respond to hostile alien visitors, housewife Betty Thompson had calmly outlined asymmetric warfare tactics that would make occupation of Earth extremely costly for any invading force. Farmer Joe Williams had suggested using agricultural knowledge to create biological weapons that could target alien physiology while leaving humans unharmed. Even elementary school teacher Mary Davis had described detailed plans for training child soldiers and maintaining resistance networks if adult populations were eliminated by enemy action. The council representatives sat in stunned silence as they realized that every human civilian was potentially a military strategist. Dr. Kethmer explained that this was not the result of government propaganda or military indoctrination, but rather reflected deep cultural patterns that shaped how humans thought about survival and problem-solving. Their entertainment, media, educational systems, and social traditions all reinforced the idea that violence was an acceptable and often necessary tool for achieving important objectives. Fleet Admiral Zorthuk of the Kree hegemony demanded clarification about human military capabilities and intentions. Dr. Kethmer responded by displaying intelligence gathered about Earth's nuclear arsenal, space exploration programs, and military organizational structures. The humans maintained enough destructive power to sterilize their own planet multiple times over and were actively developing technologies that could extend this capability throughout their solar system. More concerning was evidence of human expansionist thinking revealed during interviews with their space exploration leaders. Captain Jake Morrison had spoken enthusiastically about spreading human civilization across the galaxy, establishing colonies on thousands of worlds and making contact with alien civilizations. His casual mention of terraforming planets and harvesting stellar energy sources revealed that humans viewed the entire galaxy as potential living space. Dr. Kethmer presented his most disturbing finding through recorded conversations with human scientists and engineers. When asked about theoretical space colonization challenges, they had immediately begun discussing orbital bombardment platforms, asteroid mining operations, and military installations designed to protect human settlements from potential threats. Even their peaceful expansion plans were filled with preparations for armed conflict. The research team had discovered that human space agencies were already developing nuclear-powered spacecraft and weapons delivery systems under the guise of exploration and scientific research. Dr. Sam Rodriguez had proudly explained how the same rocket technology used for satellite launches could easily be modified to carry warheads to any target on Earth or in nearby space. Council historians noted disturbing parallels between human development patterns and the extinct Ravager Empire that had consumed 3-star systems before destroying themselves in civil war. Elder Vexani of the ancient architectural Republic warned that species with such aggressive expansion drives rarely stopped growing until they encountered forces capable of containing them. Dr. Kethmer's supplementary findings revealed additional concerns about human adaptability and organizational capabilities. During his extended observation period, he had witnessed human responses to natural disasters and emergency situations. Instead of the panic and social breakdown common among most species, humans had immediately organized rescue operations, established supply lines, and coordinated relief efforts with military precision. The alien researcher described how ordinary human civilians had spontaneously formed command structures, implemented resource distribution systems, and maintained order during crisis situations without any government direction or outside assistance. Their response to unexpected challenges revealed organizational capabilities that surpassed many advanced civilizations with centuries of peaceful development. Captain Morrison's final interview had sealed humanity's fate in Dr. Kethmer's assessment. When asked about long-term human goals for space exploration, the captain had spoken with casual confidence about establishing permanent bases throughout the galaxy, creating transportation networks between star systems, and eventually making contact with every intelligent species in the known universe. The human officer had described these ambitious plans as if they were simple engineering problems that just required sufficient time and resources to accomplish. He showed no awareness that other species might object to human expansion or that There could be territorial conflicts over habitable worlds and strategic resources. Morrison seemed to assume that humans would naturally spread across space until they filled every available niche. Dr. Kethmer concluded his presentation with a warning that would reshape galactic policy toward Earth for generations to come. He recommended that humanity be classified as an extreme risk species requiring permanent monitoring and containment until their long-term intentions could be better understood. The peaceful galaxy was simply not prepared to handle a civilization that combined advanced technology with such aggressive survival instincts. The Galactic Council's emergency session stretched into its third standard day, making it the longest continuous debate in the organization's 12,000-year history. Representatives from 847 member species argued passionately about how to handle what had become known throughout the galaxy as the human problem while Earth's inhabitants continued their daily lives. Completely unaware of the cosmic scale panic they had accidentally triggered, Fleet Admiral Zorthek of the Kree Hegemony pounded his armored fist on the speaker's podium as he demanded immediate military intervention. His tactical analysis suggested that humans, if left unchecked, could pose an existential threat to galactic civilization within just a few centuries. Their combination of rapid technological development, aggressive cultural programming, and expansionist ambitions created a danger scenario unlike anything in recorded history. The Admiral recommended establishing a containment field around the entire Sol system using the most advanced force barrier technology available to Council fleets. He proposed constant monitoring of human activities with automated defense systems programmed to destroy any spacecraft that attempted to leave their home solar system. Zorthek argued that humanity should be quarantined until they either destroyed themselves through internal warfare or evolved beyond their violent tendencies through natural social development. The Harmless collective led by Peacekeepers Prime, Yulcina and Mordain, offered a completely different approach based on their philosophy of universal peace and cooperation. They advocated for immediate diplomatic intervention with teams of cultural advisors sent to guide human development toward more peaceful evolutionary paths. Their xenosociologists believe that humanity's aggressive tendencies could be channeled into productive pursuits, like scientific exploration and artistic expression. Peacekeeper Yulcina presented detailed plans for educational programs that would teach humans about galactic history and the benefits of peaceful cooperation between species. She argued that most of humanity's violence stemmed from ignorance and competition for limited resources on their single planet. Once humans learned about the abundance of space and the wisdom of older civilizations, they would naturally abandon their warlike ways. Several other peaceful species supported this diplomatic approach, citing successful interventions with warrior cultures like the reformed blade dancers of Kepler-7 and the former battle clans of the Rigel system. These civilizations had been successfully integrated into galactic society after receiving proper guidance and education about alternatives to violent conflict resolution. However, the most influential voice in the debate belonged to elder historian Vexani of the ancient architectural republic. Her species had survived the rise and fall of 17 different galactic civilizations, giving her unique perspective on the long-term patterns of cultural development and expansion. She presented evidence of disturbing similarities between human behavior and extinct aggressive species that had threatened galactic stability in the distant past. Elder Vexani described the Ravager Empire that had consumed 3 entire star systems before finally collapsing into civil war and mutual destruction. She explained how the Devourers of the Spiral Arm had grown from a single-world civilization to a galactic plague that required a coalition of 50 species to contain and ultimately defeat. The historian warned that humanity showed early signs of following similar developmental patterns. The debate shifted dramatically when Dr. Kethmer presented his final supplementary findings based on extended observation of human crisis response behaviors. During a major earthquake in the human region called California, he had witnessed something that challenged every assumption about how civilized species should react to natural disasters and emergency situations. Instead of the expected panic social breakdown, and desperate competition for survival resources that characterized most species. During crisis events, humans had immediately self-organized into efficient rescue and relief operations. They had established command structures, coordinated supply distribution, and maintained civil order, without any government direction or outside assistance from higher authorities. Dr. Kethmer showed recordings of ordinary human civilians spontaneously forming work teams to search for survivors, clear debris, and provide medical assistance to injured victims. Children as young as 10 years old had participated in these efforts, following safety protocols and carrying out assigned tasks with discipline that impressed even experienced military observers from warrior species. The alien researcher explained that this response pattern revealed organizational capabilities and social cohesion that surpassed many advanced civilizations with thousands of years of peaceful development. Humans appeared to possess natural leadership abilities and crisis management instincts that allowed them to function effectively under extreme stress conditions that would paralyze most other species. Captain Jake Morrison's final interview became the decisive factor in humanity's ultimate classification. When Dr. Kethmer had asked about human ambitions for space exploration and galactic expansion, Morrison had responded with enthusiastic descriptions of plans that revealed the true scope of human territorial ambitions and resource acquisition goals. Morrison had spoken casually about spreading human civilization to thousands of star systems, establishing permanent colonies on every habitable world, and eventually making contact with all intelligent species in the galaxy. He described massive terraforming projects that would reshape entire planets to suit human needs and industrial operations that would harvest energy directly from stellar cores and black holes. Most disturbing of all, Morrison had discussed these plans as if they were inevitable natural developments that would obviously benefit everyone involved. He showed no awareness that other species might have territorial claims or resource needs that could conflict with human expansion goals. The captain seemed to assume that the galaxy was simply waiting for humans to arrive and organize it more efficiently. The council delegates realized that humanity was not just militaristic but potentially expansionist on a scale that threatened the territorial integrity of every existing civilization. Their combination of aggressive survival instincts, rapid technological development, and seemingly unlimited growth ambitions created a perfect storm of galactic scale disruption potential. The final vote was unanimous despite the days of heated debate. Earth's classification was officially changed from Harmless, Standard Integration Candidate, to Extreme Caution Monitoring Required Do Not Approach without authorization. The new designation carried the highest threat level in Council records and had never before been applied to a species that had not yet achieved interstellar travel capability. A permanent observation post was immediately established at the edge of the Sol system, staffed by the galaxy's most experienced military analysts and xenobiology specialists. The facility was equipped with advanced stealth technology, quantum communication arrays, and automated defense systems, capable of destroying any human spacecraft that attempted to leave their home solar system. The official report concluded with recommendations that became known throughout the galaxy as the Earth Doctrine. Under no circumstances should humanity be provided with faster-than-light travel technology, advanced weapon systems, or detailed information about galactic civilization locations and capabilities. Their integration potential was classified as unknown extreme risk, requiring further evaluation after a minimum 1,000-year observation period. As the Council ships departed Earth's solar system to establish their monitoring stations, the humans continued their space exploration programs, completely unaware that they had become the galaxy's most feared potential threat. Captain Morrison received a promotion for his successful first contact mission. Dr. Lisa Harper published papers on xenolinguistics and humanity, began planning their next steps toward the stars. The galaxy watched nervously from what they hoped was a safe distance, waiting to see what humanity would do next and praying that their containment measures would be sufficient to protect civilized space from the terrifying creatures who had evolved on the small blue planet at the edge of nowhere.